How to heal yourself when no one understands you begins with a quiet and painful realization that some of the deepest wounds are not caused by what happened to you, but by how alone you felt while carrying it. Because there comes a time in life when you stop talking. Not because you have healed, but because explaining your pain has only taught you how invisible it feels. When you sit among people and still feel lonely, when you smile and they think you are fine, when you break silently and no one notices, and slowly you start believing that maybe you are too much, or too sensitive, or too difficult to understand. But the truth is that being misunderstood is not a sign of weakness. It is often a sign of depth in a world that fears emotional honesty. And healing does not begin when people finally understand you. It begins when you stop abandoning yourself just to be understood. Because not everyone has the emotional capacity to hold your truth. Not everyone has faced their own darkness. And people who have never sat with their pain will always minimize yours. So each time you seek validation from the wrong place, you reopen your wound. And healing asks you to stop chasing empathy from those who cannot offer it, and instead turn inward with courage. Because when no one understands you, you must become the one who listens, the one who stays, the one who does not leave yourself behind. And this is difficult because you were taught to be strong by ignoring your feelings. But true healing requires you to sit with your pain without judgment, to acknowledge your exhaustion without guilt, to admit that you are hurting without apologizing. Because pain that is ignored does not disappear, it settles into your body, your thoughts, your spirit. And when no one understands you, the mind becomes loud, memories return, doubts grow stronger at night, and fear whispers that you are alone. But solitude is not abandonment when it teaches you how to hear your own voice again, when it reminds you that your worth does not depend on being understood. And healing yourself means learning to be your own safe place, speaking to yourself with the kindness you wish others had shown you, holding your own heart instead of waiting for someone else to rescue you. And this does not mean you stop needing people, it means you stop losing yourself while waiting for them, because healing is not about fixing yourself. It is about remembering who you were before the world taught you to doubt your feelings. And when no one understands you, you must release the need to explain everything, because explanations drain the energy that healing needs, and you are allowed to feel deeply without translating your pain into words that make others comfortable. You are allowed to cry without witnesses, to grieve without permission, to heal without applause, because not all healing is meant to be seen. Some healing is sacred, and part of healing yourself is learning to release the pain you have been holding inside for too long, through tears you never allowed to fall, through words you never spoke, through prayers whispered in silence, because unexpressed pain becomes heavy, and that heaviness slowly changes you. And healing is not dramatic or loud, it is gentle, slow, and deeply personal. And you must also understand that your sensitivity is not your weakness, even if the world treated it like one, even if people called you too emotional or too intense. Because sensitivity is awareness, it is depth, it is the ability to feel life fully. And the same sensitivity that allows pain to reach you deeply is the same sensitivity that will one day allow healing to flow through you toward others. So do not harden your just to survive misunderstanding. Do not become cold to prove strength, because true strength is staying soft in a world that does not always protect softness. And healing yourself also means accepting a hard truth that some people will never understand you, no matter how clearly you explain. Not because you failed, because they are not meant to walk that far into your story. And this acceptance is but freeing, because it stops you from begging for emotional attention. It stops you from shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that cannot hold you, and instead it teaches you to choose peace over being right, growth over approval. And there will be days when loneliness returns, when you wish someone would simply see you with an explanation. And in those moments you must remind yourself that this season of being misunderstood is not permanent. It is shaping your clarity, your boundaries, your inner strength. Because solitude refines you, it removes performance, it brings you back to what truly matters. And slowly, quietly, without announcing, you begin to heal, you begin to breathe, you begin to trust yourself again. And one day you will meet people who do not ask you to justify your feelings, who respect yourself, who understand your energy without interrogation. But until that day comes, you must become that presence for yourself, because healing is not a destiny, it is a relationship with yourself. And when you stop waiting for understanding and start offering yourself compassion, something powerful shifts inside. Your pain no longer controls you. Your story no longer shapes you, and you realize that being misunderstood did not break you, it built you. It taught you resilience, self-awareness, and emotional strength. And one day you will look back at this phase and understand that the moments when no one it hurt you were the moments when you learned to stand on your own, to trust your inner voice, to heal, and that healing became your greatest power. And that quiet power grows slowly, almost invisibly, as you begin to realize that healing is not something that happens overnight or in a dramatic moment, but something that unfolds in small choices you make every day. Like choosing not to explain yourself to people who have already decided not to listen, choosing not to reopen wounds just to feel seen, choosing rest over proving your strength. Because when no one understands you, life is teaching you how to stand without leaning, how to breathe without reassurance, how to trust your inner compass even when no one claps for your direction. And this does not mean you become distant or cold. It means you become rooted, grounded in who you are, no longer shaken by misunderstanding, because you start to understand that clarity is more important than approval, and peace is more valuable than being right. And there will be moments when you feel the ache of not being understood again, when something inside you wishes someone would ask the right question or offer the right words. But instead of breaking, you learn to sit with that ache, to let it pass through you instead of defining you, because pain that is allowed to move does not stay. And healing yourself means learning the art of letting emotions flow without drowning in them, learning when to feel deeply and when to let go gently. And this balance takes time, patience, and compassion toward yourself, especially when you have spent so long being strong for others, when you have been the listener, the supporter, the one who held everyone together while quietly falling apart. And now life is asking you to turn that care inward, to become the person who checks on you, who asks how you are really doing, who does not rush your healing or shame your sadness, because healing is not linear. Some days you will feel light and hopeful, other days the weight will return without warning, and neither means you are failing. Both are part of becoming whole. And when no one understands you, it is easy to believe that you are alone in your struggle, but there are countless souls quietly fighting battles they cannot explain either, and you are more connected than you realize, even in silence. And part of healing is trusting that your experience has meaning, even if it is not immediately recognized, that your pain is shaping wisdom, empathy, and depth that will one day serve a purpose beyond this moment. And as you continue walking this path, you begin to notice subtle changes within yourself. You become less reactive, less desperate to be understood, more comfortable with who you are, more protective of your energy, and you start setting boundaries not out of anger, but out of self-respect, because you understand now that not everyone deserves access to your inner world, and that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. And healing yourself also means forgiving yourself for the times you stayed too long, explained too much, or ignored your intuition just to feel accepted, because you were doing the best you could with the awareness you had at the time. And growth comes from compassion, not punishment, and slowly you learn to trust your inner voice again, the one that was drowned out by noise, expectations, and misunderstanding, the one that knows when something feels wrong even if you cannot explain it, the one that guides you gently toward what feels true. And trusting yourself after being misunderstood is one of the deepest forms of healing, because it means you no longer need others to confirm your reality. And with that trust comes a quiet confidence, not loud or arrogant, but steady, calm, and unshakable. And one day you will notice that the same situations that once hurt you no longer have the same power, the same words no longer cut as deeply, the same silence no longer feels as heavy, because you have learned how to be present with yourself, how to soothe your own wounds, how to create safety inside your own heart. And when that happens, misunderstanding loses its grip. It no longer defines your worth or direction. It becomes simply a part of life that you can move through without losing yourself. And you begin to understand that healing yourself when no one understands you is not about becoming independent of human connection, but about becoming secure enough within yourself yourself, that connection becomes a choice rather than a need. And from that place, the relationships you form are healthier, deeper, and more honest, because you are no longer asking others to complete you. You are inviting them to walk beside you. And this shift changes everything. It changes how you love, how you listen, how you give, because you give from fullness rather than emptiness. And you stop trying to be understood at the cost of your authenticity. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this journey is realizing that one day you will encounter someone who is walking a similar path, someone who has also known the pain of being misunderstood. And when you meet, there will be no need for long explanations, no need to defend your feelings. There will be a quiet recognition, a mutual respect for each other's depth. And until that moment arrives, you continue showing up for yourself, choosing patience over pressure, kindness over criticism, growth over bitterness. And even when the world feels loud and confusing, you remember that healing does not require an audience, only honesty, courage, and time. And so you keep walking, step by step, breath by breath, trusting that every moment of loneliness is shaping resilience. Every tear is softening your heart rather than hardening it. Every misunderstood chapter is preparing you for a life lived with truth. And one day when you look back, you will see clearly that healing yourself when no one understood you was the moment you learned to truly understand yourself. And that understanding became your strength, your peace, and your quiet victory.